Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo Tree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie, and I'm a blogger and a serial entrepreneur. I build businesses online with my husband, David. We started in 2009 with Catch My Party. If you need party ideas, head over there. And then we built our pop-up app called Milo Tree. If you go to Catch My Party, you'll see it pop on our site. We actually built it for ourselves to grow our Pinterest followers. And currently we have, I think, 1.7 million Pinterest followers that we grew with our pop-up app. So with it, you can grow your social media followers on TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook and YouTube, and grow your email list. And most recently, we have launched Milo Tree Cart, which is a way for you bloggers and creators to sell digital products in the easiest way possible. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my friend Summer, who emailed me yesterday and said, I just launched my membership and it is going great. And the last I checked, which was right before I pressed record here, she has gotten in 2 days 76 people signing up for her crafting membership. And she's using Milo Tree Cart for the payments and managing the back end. She's going to host it in a private Facebook group, and she's going to do crafting tutorials. And I am just so proud of Summer. In fact, I just reached out to her and asked her to come on the show to share how she did this. And what I love about a membership is it's all recurring revenue. So she will be making thousands of dollars every month. So Milo Tree Cart customers, please keep sending in your success stories and I will share them. For today's episode, I have my friend Megan Porta on the podcast. Now, if you are a food blogger, chances are you know who Megan is. So she's a food blogger and her food blog is called Pip and Ebby. But you also might know her from her podcast, Eat Blog Talk. So I've known about Megan forever, finally reached out to her and said, I think we need to be friends. And so she's come on my show and I'm going to be a guest on her show. And what I really wanted to know from Megan is, what does the world of food blogging look like today? And what was so great about our conversation is Megan got tactical, like what is she doing to grow her traffic? What are other food bloggers leaning into right now? And we also talked about what it's really like to be a food blogger, where it's difficult, where it's easy, and this idea that you need to have a vision for what you're trying to achieve. I really understand why she is such a leader in the food blogging space. So without further delay, here is my interview with Megan Porta. Megan, welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Jillian.
I feel like we are both old school podcasters, so it made sense that we should do this and actually meet, not in real life, but at least on Zoom.
Agreed. Yes, it's finally here. Finally, we're meeting.
So I was excited to have you on the show because I feel like you are so knowledgeable about the food blogging space that I wanted to pick your brain on what's going on now. So before we launch into that, will you just tell people who you are, when you started your blog, like what you're up to, and how you built your online business?
Sure. So I'm an OG food blogger. I've been around for a long time. I started way back before SEO was a thing or keyword research or like really any of those things were things at all. And I built it as a way to stay home with my family more and have freedom. I always knew that was a goal. So I just I dug in. I created my food blog, Pip and Ebby, and I've stuck with it all these years. It's been 12 and a half years now that I've been doing that. And then about 5 years ago, I started just feeling this nudge to start some sort of platform where I would bring food bloggers together, because as a food blogger, I just knew there was always a need for that. It's a lonely space. people need connection and they need to get relevant information. So I thought about it for about a year and a half. And then finally, I just decided I'm going to start a podcast. So I started my podcast, Eat Blog Talk, and it is a podcast for food bloggers. I interview many different experts all across the board, from mindset to SEO, keyword research, Pinterest, like you name it. Just gathering all of the relevant information so that food bloggers can get the information, reach their goals, find their freedoms, and not feel like they're slaves to their business. So that's kind of where I'm at. I still run my food blog and I do my podcast simultaneously, and I love both sides of it.
I feel the same way. We have Catch My Party, which is user-generated content, and we blog, and we're all about parties and celebrations. And then us too, we were like, hey, how can we help other bloggers? Which is why we started Milo Tree, our pop-up app. I launched the podcast, and now we have Milo Tree Cart, which we use to help people or help bloggers sell digital products. And it's funny because I too feel like I wear different hats, and like almost like I'm a different person depending on which business I'm working on.
That is so true. I feel like that too. That's why I have to segment and really focus by the day. Otherwise, it's like, who am I? Am I a podcast host today, or am I a food blogger? So yeah, I totally understand.
Are you still doing recipe development and posting new content, or because you have so much content, are you really just going back into your library of content and kind of, updating and making things more relevant?
That is such a good question. Yes, to be honest with you, I got really burnt out on creating food about 2 years ago. I don't even cook anymore, Jillian. My husband does all of our cooking, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. I never cook because I've just done it for so many years. I had over 1,000 recipes in my database. It just got old. So I've kind of been in this dry spell where I'm not going to push it. I don't feel like it is authentic to force cooking just for the sake of putting it on the blog. So what I do is I do comb through a lot of my existing content. That's been a strategy that I've used for the past few years. And I also create a lot of non-recipe content, which I think we might talk about in a little bit, but that's my current strategy. Not much cooking is going on in my life.
Ooh, well, okay. What kind of non-cooking cooking content are you creating?
Yeah.
Is it for food bloggers or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's stuff that I post on my blog. So it is published content on my blog, but it's a lot of stuff that I find in the tool Rank IQ, which I use all the time. It's like my Bible for keyword research. And it is stuff that is like, okay, just to give you an example, I have a lot of sauce recipes on my blog that people love. So I will just like go into Rank IQ, I'll type in sauce, and kind of random stuff will come up, like how do you thicken spaghetti sauce? What is the difference between marinara and spaghetti sauce? Things like that. So what I do is I write an entire post on those topics that I know a lot about and that have relevancy with my existing content. And then I do interlinking. So I'll like put a little H2 within all of my spaghetti sauce recipes and link to my marinara versus spaghetti sauce post. So I do a lot of that sort of thing.
Wow. Well, that is a great strategy. Yeah, we'll talk about that, but let's talk about food blogging in general. Like I want to take the temperature of food blogging as a business and kind of where it is in the zeitgeist, because I feel like it went through this big transformation during the pandemic where everybody started a food blog. And so would you walk us through kind of how you see it and where it is today?
So first of all, I'm super immersed in this world. I mentioned my podcast, but I also host groups. So I get to hear a lot of different perspectives and stories. So I feel like I do have kind of a finger on like what's going on. Just so you know, I'm not like just coming up with random stuff for anyone listening. It is still really saturated, I believe. Yes, in 2020, everyone and their mom decided to start food blogging. And I feel like if a fair amount of those people have maybe stopped because they've found that it's no joke, that it's actually a lot of work and you need to pour your soul into it to make it work. But there are still a lot of people in this space. So the people who are really crushing it are honestly a lot of the newer bloggers. So they come in, they kind of learn the formula, because now, unlike when I was starting, there is a formula. And if you follow it and you work hard and you're consistent and you're driven, you can make it work fairly quickly. So there are a lot of people doing that. There are a lot of people also very discouraged by the saturation. And I think those are the people who are either cutting back or pulling out of it a little bit. But as you know, the space is always evolving. We're in kind of weird times right now with like Chat GPT coming up and AI concerns. And, like the platforms are always evolving. There's always like Google core updates and algorithms. I mean, it's like it can be a really overwhelming space. So I think there is a certain type of person who can see that and stick with it and keep going. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but I think it is still really saturated, but there are people holding on and who are really crushing it right now.
Let's talk about the personality of the person who can make it as a food blogger.
Oh gosh. Yeah, there is a type of person, I would say someone who is really driven. They know their goals. They are in touch with what they want, and those freedoms that we all have in our minds. I think for some of us, they're more defined so that we can actually like take real steps toward them. I think the person who doesn't really take the time to define their dreams and their goals for like 3 to 5 years ahead are the ones who don't really know where they're going. So they don't, they kind of get lost on the path. So that is one thing, really goal oriented.
So
really
wait, are you saying something like, I'm going to start this food blog and I want to get to 50,000 sessions by this time so I can get into media buying, and I want to reach out to these brands to see if they will work with me. And I'm going to pitch them like a long-term relationship where, I will do one post seasonally and here are my ideas and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I would argue that that's not enough. Like you need to have something else propelling you toward those goals. So for me, I love my family. I love spending time with them. And I have goals relating to that freedom. I want to take summers off. In 5 years, I want to have a home in the mountains, like that sort of thing that keeps me on the path toward those other goals. So use the Mediavine example. That would keep me moving forward toward Mediavine, getting into Mediavine, as well as all of the supplemental things that lead to that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So you need that big overarching goal that you can imagine, that you can picture, and each day you are working toward it. Because I would argue too that being a blogger it's a lonely place.
It is.
I mean, I know that seems weird, but it's kind of like you need to get yourself out of bed every day and push that rock up the hill.
Yeah, it's true.
And
that is a real issue.
I will say this, which is there have been like amazing communities I have been part of, and also some that have just like fallen apart because food bloggers can be very competitive and kind of not wanting to share there's some that people are just like an open book, and then other people who aren't. Like it can get kind of weird.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are so many of us that I think it's bound to get a little bit weird, right? Because we're all different. We're all in different places in our journey. We all have different personalities and viewpoints on. I mean, there are so many variables that of course it's going to get a little bit weird.
And I think too that you can look at somebody's food blog and think they're super successful and they're killing it. And again, you don't know them and know what struggles they're facing in their own lives. And it's hard to not be in that competitive place, especially if like I'm a keto blogger and you're a keto blogger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think there are certain niches within blogging that seem extra competitive too, like with certain diets. I see that often, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of us out there. So there's bound to be some of that mindset floating around.
Okay, so how do you then, because you've got a group, and how do you help bloggers deal with the mindset piece?
I feel like I'm one of those eternal optimists. I'm always the person who's like, but life always goes on. We can't control everything, like that sort of. So I feel like I bring that to the table. I'm always, maybe annoyingly sometimes, looking at the positive, because I don't believe we should be dwelling on the negative. There's a lot of negativity that we could let consume us in our space. Um, so that's something that's really important to me. I bring that to the podcast, the positivity. I also bring it to my mastermind groups that I host. And I think it's really important. Oh, here's another thing. Reframing language. So many of us are accustomed to saying, one thing I hear all the time is, I hate Pinterest, or I hate, fill in the blank, put the platform of your choice in there. And I always stop people, because if you say you hate something, what are you going to get back? Pinterest is going to hate you back.
Or I hear Pinterest hates me.
Oh, yeah. And that's crazy. Yeah, whatever you speak, the words that we speak actually come to us. So if you say that Pinterest hates you, absolutely, you're never going to get traffic from Pinterest. And if you say you hate it, it's never going to love you back. And that sounds like super woo cheesy, but it's so true. So that's something that I like to do.
I believe that being in the online space, I think you have to believe in karma, because the world, it's like a weird, even though it is big and there are lots of bloggers and stuff, it's also small. Yeah. And I feel like what you put out, you do get back.
It's so true.
That's just my, I think I too am optimistic as a person. And I feel like that is super, not that I don't have my dark days, but just in general, it helps me, get out of bed and do my work and push the rock up the hill. And also absolutely. I work with my husband. I mean, we do very different tasks in our businesses, but at least there's somebody to talk to, somebody to bounce ideas off of, because I feel like we all need that. And I don't always, my dad has no idea what I do. And I've been doing this now for 12 years.
Yeah. I think a lot of people from that generation, my parents as well, they're always like, how's your business? You can tell they're super curious about what is it that you're doing every day.
Mm-hmm. I know. So let's talk about then, if I were to just ask you some questions, where are food bloggers getting the most traffic right now?
In the groups that I am in, so in my mastermind groups and the circles that I'm talking to people a lot, the non-recipe post creation that I was talking about earlier is a huge traffic driver right now. And not only that, it's a really quick traffic producer. There is one blogger in my group who back in May, she joined our group back in May. She had 5,000 page views a month, I think. And she's like, I need to make this work. It's either do it or leave. And I'm giving it a year. So I was like, you can do this. Here are some strategies. Let's kick out a bunch of non-recipe content. And she did. She worked her butt off. And what is that, 8 months later? It's been about 8 months now. And she has, I think, upward of 70K page views a month. So it happened fast for her. So if you employ that strategy, it's a great one. And the bloggers that I'm seeing who are using it are doing really, really well. So that would be my first kind of piece of advice.
Okay. And are you seeing Pinterest driving traffic like it used to?
No, but it's it's an evolved platform. It's different from when I started blogging. When I started blogging, I could put anything on Pinterest. And within a few hours, it was everywhere. My stepmom would be like, I saw your guacamole on Pinterest. It was like anything would go wild. Now it is not like that. But I think that a lot of people are really frustrated by Pinterest right now because it's just changed so much. So they give up on it. And I do hear that. I hate Pinterest a lot because we have to do the idea pins if we want to, stay in the platform and get traction. And we have to do all the things. There are a handful of different things that we should be doing inside of Pinterest. But if you can just put that aside and just make a plan and do the things that Pinterest wants us to do, you can get traffic. I know plenty of food bloggers right now who are getting traction from the platform. So don't give up on Pinterest, especially if you're a food blogger, because food is visual and Pinterest is all visual and people go there for recipe ideas. So don't give up. There's still hope there.
Now, what about Instagram? Kind of where is that in the world of food blogging?
A lot of bloggers are frustrated with Instagram right now. A lot.
Because
and I think
it doesn't drive traffic, because their followers aren't growing, their engagement is down.
All of the above. I think mainly right now people are really looking for traffic and revenue tied to ads. So unless you have a following of like 50K or more on Instagram, sorry, you're really not going to use it as a traffic driver. So I think that's where it is. Like, why am I doing all of this?
Right.
Now, I think for like sponsored work, if that is a main goal of yours, if you really want to dig into working with brands and getting sponsored work, you should by all means dig into Instagram. But if for traffic, I mean, it's really not super fruitful, below 50K.
Now, what about TikTok?
So I'm like loosely on TikTok. I don't post food content on there, but I know plenty of people who do. There's one blogger in my mastermind who has a huge TikTok following, and she actually gets quite a bit of traffic from TikTok, but she did put in the work. She has a lot of followers, but she deals with so much hate. And I just like, if you have thick skin and if you're ready for that, go for it. And you maybe want sponsored work and a little extra traffic boost. But I don't know. I don't like the haters. I don't like that it's so over the top mean on that platform, it seems like. So that's what I'm kind of hearing in my space.
That's interesting. So in terms of Google versus Pinterest, like for Catch My Party, we got most of our traffic from Pinterest. And that's, of course, as Pinterest is not being as generous, we've really had to work on Google SEO. So when you compare those two, where would you say, and you've got a limited amount of time, would you go, I should invest more in Pinterest, I should invest more in SEO? And I know they're similar. Like I know that optimizing for one is somewhat similar to optimizing for the other in terms of keywords. Like they are both search engines.
Yeah, right. They are. I mean, I would say invest more time in SEO and keyword research, but don't discount Pinterest. Don't let it fall away. So many bloggers get so immersed in the keyword research that they put on blinders and they let Pinterest fall away, and then frustration builds and then they get mad. So carve out time for Pinterest too, but I would say Google holds a little bit more priority right now.
So let's dig in now to keyword research, because you seem like you are super into it, especially with Rank IQ. So would you go through your quick tips on what to do?
Yes, so I use Rank IQ and Key Search in tandem. Rank IQ, I don't know if you've used it, but it's a very selective database. So the founder, Brandon, he handpicks all of these keywords so that they're going to be quality, they're going to rank fast, and they have low competition. So I can't go into Rank IQ and just type in like gravy recipe and necessarily get any gravy recipe that's going to align with my content. But if I go into Key Search, that's a much bigger database. You can find anything you're looking for. So what I do is I will go into Rank IQ first and search for my kind of main terms. And if I find it there, great. I use it.
And by the way, Brandon too, like he's been on my podcast and stuff like that, but I don't know, like how quickly is he rolling out new keywords and all of that? Like I go in and look for party content, and it's been very helpful.
He keeps that tool really updated. And in fact, if you're a blogger and you don't see your niche, he has all of these sub niches within Rank IQ. So there's like an overarching food category, but then there's like, I mean, not a million, but a lot, like appetizer, soup, like you can drill down so far. If you do not see your niche in there, reach out to him and he will create it for you. So he's really good. And he keeps it really updated. So yeah, it's an updated tool.
Okay. So you go first, Rank IQ.
First to Rank IQ.
Gravy, I don't know, like what kind of gravy, but like
gravy without flour.
Oh,
Like
okay,
it's
gravy without
a lot
flour.
of modifiers in RankIQ. So like either with or without an ingredient or something like that. Those do really well. But yeah, I'll type in like gravy without flour. If it's not there, then I will head over to Key Search and I'll research it there. And you'll get like the keywords on the right side of the screen, and you can just search forever until you find. I mean, there's rarely a keyword in there that I can't fit in somewhere with what I have in my mind and my content. So between the two tools, I can find pretty much anything that I want to write about.
And the idea is then, let's say it is gravy without flour. You're going to write a blog post about gravies, different kinds of gravies without flour.
So for that example, I would actually write a recipe post with just detailing gravy made without flour. So the recipe card would have, the instructions and ingredients like normal. And then within the post, I might write some things about, flour versus cornstarch, or why I wouldn't use flour, kind of digging into more of the education about why you're not using flour, because someone who's looking for gravy without flour doesn't want flour. And so you need to kind of, explain why you're using other ingredients.
I want to take a short break to say, if you are enjoying this show, please join my newsletter, because every Sunday I send out an email where I share my 4 biggest takeaways from my recent episode. It's like a cheat sheet. This way you can stay up to date on the most cutting edge strategies in online business. And then you can listen to the episode if it resonates with you. To get on my list, go to bloggergenius.com. Super easy, bloggergenius.com. You can pause the episode and sign up right now. And now back to the show. Now, tell me about your experience so far and what you're hearing about ChatGPT and all of these AI tools. Personally, like, I have my own thoughts, but will you share yours first, and then I'll share what I think.
I mean, it's a new thing. It's just coming out. I think it's so new that there's a little bit of panic rippling through not just food blogging, but the whole blogging space, because there are these thoughts that, like, oh my gosh, could AI replace bloggers? Could Google potentially replace like Google search with an AI tool? So there's all of that debate going on. And as with everything, I just think, yeah, it's kind of scary to think about that. But we've navigated so much change in the past 5 years even. And we've come out ahead. We've all figured out how to make this online business profitable and lucrative, and not just that, but like finding other avenues to explore. So there's always a way, always a way. So I just think, even though it's a little bit scary, we're going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. It's fine. It's going to be fine.
It was a couple months ago, gosh, maybe 6 months ago, Jasper was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I reached out to my community to say, hey, can I interview? And by the way, I had signed up for, this is before ChatGPT. I signed up for Jasper, and I thought to myself, oh, this is going to take a while for me to learn, because it wasn't as easy as ChatGPT. It was like you had to kind of coax it into doing what you wanted. And it was expensive. And so I canceled it for a while. I go, I'll come back to this at some point. But I was intrigued, and I tried to find somebody to come on my podcast to talk about how they use it. And nobody would come on my podcast, even though what I found out was tons of people were using it, but it was like this, like, secret, like everybody was using it on the down low and didn't want to talk about it, and didn't want to be like, oh, I use this tool. Because the big thing is it cheating?
Right.
Is it ethical? Is Google going to punish you for it? So I thought that was so fascinating, because I just wanted to talk about it. And I didn't realize that there was like shame attached to it. Now that ChatGPT has come out, I feel like even my 82-year-old mother is talking about ChatGPT and used it to write thank you notes for her birthday.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
by the way, that's without me teaching her about it. My stepfather had read about it, got an account, and she was using it and even came to me and was like, there's this thing that I used and it wrote the thing for me. So I thought, oh, wow, if my mother is using this, that is super interesting.
That is interesting. Wow.
And for example, there was something complicated, and also my father-in-law too. There was something complicated, and instead of Googling it, it was like some sort of like supplement or something like that. Instead of going to Google, he went to ChatGPT and said, "Please explain this to me like it was a research paper." And again, not be like that was just like seeing these use cases in the real world is like, whoa, instead of going to Google, where are you going? ChatGPT. Now, today, I think it is that Google just announced that they are rolling out their version of ChatGPT. So I believe that the toothpaste is out of the bottle and that this is something that we are going to have to incorporate into our businesses. I don't think that everything is going that we're not going to want a human touch. I just think it's going to look different, and I don't exactly know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Right. I mean, we'll see how this pans out, but who knows? We've seen changes before, like I said, and everything has been fine. We've adapted, so we will adapt again.
Now, again, it's similar in a way to, let's say, even doing Rank IQ. And I'm not saying that that's ChatGPT or that's AI, but it's like you're looking at keywords or you're looking for questions, let's say, for your FAQ section. So like, how different is it to do that versus put it into ChatGPT, get some questions, get some answers, rewrite it in your own text so that it feels human? Like, it's not that different. Or going to Google and doing a search and Google gives you the answer.
Yeah, there's like some gray area for sure.
Like, what's the population of Philadelphia? Google's not going to send you to a blog post. It's going to offer up that answer. So it's like, what I would say is it's not black and white. And it's about kind of, like you were saying, being flexible and using it where appropriate. Like if you want ideas, it is a great idea generator.
It is. I have to admit, a few things I'm like, oh gosh, I don't feel like writing. The other day I was writing a sales copy for a sales page, and that's just like really not my thing. So I just typed a few points into ChatGPT, and it was so amazing what it kicked out for me. I mean, it's really hard to ignore it when it's there and it's free right now. So it's like, oh, I'll just type this in and see what happens. It's pretty magical.
Yeah. So again, I would just say to everybody who knows, and like, stay flexible, like we've been, like what you were saying, and that humans aren't going away, but the way that we work with technology
is changing,
and it will continue to change and evolve. I think that, like, for example, school, I'm noticing it with my daughter, just they're starting to either incorporate it in her projects or say, you can't use this. Like, so it's definitely like, they don't know. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
So let's talk about making money. Right now, if you can get into Mediavine, AdThrive, and you are writing good quality content, you can make money with ads.
Yes.
Where
definitely.
else are you seeing food bloggers make money? Where are the opportunities?
I think especially for newer and intermediate bloggers, a lot of them who really want to monetize like pronto are getting into freelancing. So they notice that they have strengths in a particular skill inside their business, such as photography or writing or video creation, and they offer that service to other bloggers. And I think that is one of the easiest, quickest ways to make money, because it's doing something that you already love and it's serving the blogging community. So I think that is like number one.
Interesting. Do you feel like that becomes more lucrative than doing blog posts and chasing ad dollars? Like, if I can be like a great food photographer.
Yeah, I wouldn't say more lucrative, because you can make a lot of money through an ad network. So I think that is always, I shouldn't say always, but commonly an ultimate goal for any food blogger. But you can make a lot of money freelance. There's so many services that a lot of food bloggers just don't want to do, or they they don't have the skills to do it. There's like web stories, Google web stories right now, which I believe are still really important to be creating. And a lot of people don't make the time for that and they don't want to. So you could be a freelancer and offer web story creation for other bloggers. There's just so many avenues you could go. So I think there's a ton of opportunity.
Now, what about sponsored content?
I think sponsored content is something that a lot of bloggers still pursue. It's more frustrating, I think, than working with freelancers, just because a lot of brands aren't educated about how to work with bloggers. So we sometimes have to do the educating. And not every brand is ideal to work with. So I think that
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Just like not respecting our okay, this isn't like across the board, obviously, but there are brands out there who maybe don't value our worth at the same level that we do. That's probably the main.
What I've heard, tell me if you agree, is that brands kind of chase shiny objects in terms of, I want this kind of blogger, or, I've heard people say like, I'm not the right type anymore.
Okay.
So that was one thing. And the other is that brands now want more and more, like jump through this hoop and jump through this hoop, rather than, hey, go, use our flower, but go be creative.
Yeah, right. That I think
The
that's
days
very
of that
accurate.
are way over.
Yeah.
Like at Catch My Party, we were back in the day a Bounty like brand ambassador, and they'd come to us and they go, hey, we have these really cute floral Bounty paper towels. Go do something. And they didn't care what it was. It could have been a craft. It could have been a recipe. It could have been whatever. And they were just delighted, as long as it was good quality.
Yeah.
They didn't care what it was. Just use their product and show how much you love it. And since I use Bounty, like I still love them. It was easy and it was fun.
Right.
It was like a little bit like, here's a prompt, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's over.
Yeah, the creativity has been stripped out a little bit. I think as the space gets more saturated and as more people want to do that sponsored work, that's probably accurate for a lot of brands. Yeah.
And are brands now all about social media? Like, do they care about a blog post anymore? Or do they just care about a reel?
Well, I will preface this by saying I do not do a ton of brand work, like very, very little. So I don't really know, but from what I've heard in my circles, they're more about social media, I would say, but some are still interested in doing a blog post and video.
Okay, now what about affiliate products and creating your own digital products?
Yeah, so affiliates, I don't do a lot of affiliate work either, but I know some bloggers who do and who do really well, but it's like a mindset. It's a whole different mindset that's really interesting to me because I've never thought in this way, but it's like everything they write is curated with the idea that you can be delivering value via an affiliate product or link or service to your people. So it is something that I think you have to train yourself almost to do. And not very many people do that because it takes some work. But I think if you focus on that, there's definitely opportunity there outside of Amazon associates. And then as far as the digital products go, I think there's tons of opportunity there. I know you agree with me on that, but I know people who absolutely crush it with ebooks. And a lot of people say, like, are ebooks dead? I don't think so, because I'm thinking of one blogger who was in my mastermind group last year, who she just found a really specific pain point for her audience and solved the problem. And
can you share what it is?
So she's a vegan blogger, and cheese is huge for vegan bloggers because a lot of vegans miss their cheese. So she just figured out how to make really good vegan cheese. And she put it together, like some recipes and tips in an ebook, and she sold a lot of money. So I think if the pain point you're solving is really painful and you have a great solution for it, you can definitely make money with ebooks or
And
videos.
and I would say that I just had this conversation with somebody who is a big food blogger, and we were talking about creating digital products. And she has this like viral kind of like marinara sauce. And she made like fresh pasta with it. And it's like her number one post for like years. And I said, what else, why don't you think about an ebook with this as like the focal point, but also other kinds of interesting sauces and pastas, because she makes homemade pasta. And she was like, oh, so I need to create all these new recipes for the ebook. And I go, no, just take your best post, and she's like, yeah, but they're already there and they're free. And I'm like, no, because people will pay for you serving up like you've done the work for me. You've curated it. You've said these are the ones that are always going to knock it out of the park. So go buy this ebook for $7, $10, whatever it is, because these are the recipes you want.
Yeah. Putting a collection of recipes that already exist in a new convenient little package. People love that. They will totally buy it.
Yeah. So you are seeing food bloggers doing both affiliate and digital products.
Yes.
And like meal
definitely.
plans. Meal plans
yeah,
were
meal
a
plans
huge
too.
thing, especially, like 3 years ago, I feel like every single food blogger had a meal plan.
Yeah. I think, again, with the meal plans, spin it in a way that you're really solving a problem. And if you can do that, people will buy it. If you're just like, hey, I have these yummy meal plans, why don't you, check them out? I don't think that's super effective. I mean, maybe if you have a huge audience, that would work. But I think you need to like get into who needs these meal plans. It's moms with 2 kids under the age of 5 who have like 20 minutes to make dinner every night, and like really, really hone in on who needs it and what their problems are. And then you'd probably be way more successful with it.
So can we do a lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of the biggest or most profitable niches that you are seeing in the food blogging space?
I honestly think like vegan bloggers and gluten-free bloggers have so much opportunity right now because there's so much educating that can be done in those areas. And that kind of aligns with my non-recipe content. You can educate about, different types of bread that are gluten-free. And like, there's so many places you can go with that. So I would say if you have a really specific kind of diet focused niche that you have a leg up.
Ooh, email marketing. How are food bloggers using email successfully, and where are they falling down?
Exactly what I just said about the pain points. If you deliver a compelling, maybe like an email series or course, or like a series of emails or an ebook solving a really painful pain point, that is where you can nail email marketing. And then where are they falling down? What I do, which is not what I recommend everyone doing. On my food blog, we send out like a weekly, here are 5 recipes you should check out, and with no real call to action or no real cohesiveness, just like, here's what I made this week. I don't think that's super compelling anymore.
If I am a vegan food blogger, how do I stand out?
Yeah, educate people about the pain points of going maybe from a like regular diet to a vegan diet. So like my friend Monica did with the cheese, that's huge. And I think we can all learn from that. What else are vegans missing? What are they wishing they could eat, but they can't? Educate people about how they can make similar recipes, or like do things alternatively outside of going back to real cheese and other non-vegan food.
So it shouldn't be like Jillian's the vegan, like about me and my life, because nobody cares about me. Should it be gimmicky, like these are 5 ingredient vegan recipes? Like all of
Yeah.
my recipes are just going to be 5 ingredient.
I think if you can go really niche like that, a 5-ingredient niche or a 5-ingredient vegan blog, that would be huge. That would be so successful. I think go as niche as you can.
Ooh, could you speak? What do you mean by that?
I mean, so in the vegan space, there are a lot of vegan blogs, for example. It's kind of weird talking about this because I'm not vegan, but
I know, me neither. And it's weird. It's always my go-to example, by the way.
Yeah, it is a good example. So it's saturated just as any niche within the food blogging space is. So the more clear you can get about who you're serving, I think the better. That's going to serve you.
So for example, should it be vegan desserts? Should it be vegan chocolate desserts? Should it be vegan five ingredient chocolate desserts? Like, where do you what do you recommend?
Think if you can create content for years and years on end and have keywords that support your content that are going to produce results in Google and that you're not going to get tired of, go with that. I don't know if vegan chocolate desserts is going to keep you afloat for 5 years or more. But yeah, I would just ask yourself that. Is this something that I will not run out of quality content for?
Okay. And my last question, if you could go back to yourself, how many years ago did you start your food blog?
12. Yep.
12 years ago. What is the one thing you wish you knew 12 years ago?
This is such a great question. I have so many different answers for this, but I think the one I will say now is just community. I avoided community for a long time, thinking I could just do it on my own. I'll figure this out. I know better than everyone. And I didn't. Nobody does. We need each other. We need networking. We need peers who understand what we're doing. We need to feel understood. We need the information that others can provide to us. So that's key. Community is so important.
And how do people find it?
I think there are a lot of ways. You can go to conferences. I know there are some good kind of more generic entrepreneurial conferences. There's a great food blogging conference called Tastemaker that's coming up. That's a good one. Find a podcast, and if you feel like you trust the host, reach out to them because they are usually connected and know the circles of people who are worth investing your time in. There are great mastermind groups that are going on, that some awesome collaborating are happening in. Forums. I know there's a big Facebook group with food bloggers. There's a handful of those. So that's a great free place to start. And eBlog Talk actually has a free discussion forum as well. So you could go there and just introduce yourself. And Instagram is a really good place too for community. Just start kind of stalking the accounts that really appeal to you. So the people who have beautiful content and whose vibe you can kind of feel, you can kind of do that on Instagram. Reach out to them and just tell them, I love your content. Are you going to Tastemaker this year? I would love to meet you. And that's a really good way to connect with people.
Oh, I love that. Okay. If people want to learn more about you, find out about your podcast, see your food blog, all that, where should they go?
Yeah, my food blog is at pipandebby.com. If you want to learn anything about Eat Blog Talk, go to your favorite podcast player and just type in Eat Blog Talk. It's like a kind of magenta colored logo. Otherwise, eatblogtalk.com has all the information too.
Well, I have to say, I have learned so much from you, and I really appreciate your honesty. I really do.
Yeah,
putting good information
honest with each other,
there.
Right? Yeah. I think that's really important, not to sugarcoat anything and just here's how I see it. So yeah, it's been so much fun connecting with you. This was so fun.
Well, I'm so glad we're friends. And thank
Yay.
you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been such an honor to be here.
I hope you guys like this episode. For me, my biggest takeaway is how food bloggers can lean into non-recipe content to grow their blogs, how they can solve problems for their readers, and boom, it's such a win-win. I'd never thought of this before. So thank you, Megan, for sharing your strategy and for being so honest with what it's like in the trenches of food blogging. Now, if you guys were inspired by what I shared about my friend Summer at the beginning of this episode, how she has been able to turn on a membership and find tremendous success. If you've been thinking, you know what, I want to create a membership, I promise you, it's a lot easier than you think. And if you want to get on a call with me to talk about it, please go to milotree.com/meet. I'll lay it all out for you. So again, milotree.com/meet, because I'd love to meet you. And I will see you here again next week.